usually I end the chats with three Dream Dinner guests, but I'm not necessarily going to do it that way. But it's still going to be the number three. I want you from SummerSlam 1992, from the entire rest, and because I know a lot of the talent have now passed away, so this is a fantasy podcast. You could pick three wrestlers or even talents, maybe, because you had Vince McMahon there, and just three people that were involved in SummerSlam 1992 on your network, on your platform. Who would you pick, and the short reason as to why you want them there on John's podcast?
What, to interview them?
Three guests. Yep, three guests.
Wow, okay.
SummerSlam 92. I know if they are, no, fantasy before someone just makes that weird question.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, the first one that jumped to mind, and when I say this name, it's going to be obvious as to why I want this person or would want this person on the show, and there's still a possibility because this person is still alive. Repo Man. I mean, come on, Repo Man. Who wouldn't want Repo Man on the show?
You're not taking the piss, are you? Repo
Not at all. Yes, do all of it. He could do all of that. I'd just be in fits of giggles. It would be the best guest. He's got to be a full character, of course.
I was going to say, I don't want Barry Darso. I don't care about him. I want Repo Man.
Yeah, Repo Man. I mean, 100%. The second one, and obviously because he's just an absolutely batshit crazy character. But honestly, from my early fandom, he was one of the characters that I really enjoyed watching. I always loved watching the bad guys. The bad guys were so much more entertaining, which is why I was always a massive Ric Flair fan back in the 90s, and when he won the Rumble in 92 and everything like that. Just Ric Flair all day long, just his persona, his character. Ric Flair might be on that list, but I'm not going to say his name just yet. But certainly, Repo Man, Bobby the Brain Heenan. I mean, why do you not want Bobby the Brain Heenan? Probably the great.
Just last year, I just really get heartbroken because someone who's known for his voice and it got taken away from him, and it's just so sad. But he's always in good spirits. I have friends that I've met him at conventions, and he was always, though he couldn't communicate with his mouth, he would still communicate with his body, and you can still see he was, just happy to be there. I think.
Can you imagine the stories he would tell? Can you imagine the stories he would tell? The people that he's been around. He had done everything. Probably one of the greatest minds in the wrestling business. One of the funniest people as well. But the stories he would tell in his prime. If I were to kind of pluck him out of SummerSlam '92 and put him into 2023 Wrestling with John as Bobby the Brain Heenan. Oh my God, I could get days worth of
without
content.
You would be able to pick his brain, Bobby the Brain, and just listen to him. Not even I wouldn't even have to ask him questions. If he wanted to talk, I'd let him fucking talk. Like, record. Yeah. You tell me any stories. Just be like a little kid, around his granddad or something.
Yeah. The other one.
Gonna be Cobra.
I know it wouldn't be Rocco, the ventriloquist dummy that came down on the front of one of the Harley Davidsons. Yeah, that was where the Legion of Doom started going downhill in my estimation.
We're off now.
Okay, so a third one. This is a great question, and honestly, I'm going to go with Sherry Martel.
I love it.
Yeah, Sherry Martel, because I think, once again, similar to Bobby the Brain, Sherry Martel was an underrated pioneer in the wrestling business, because she was a female in the business and achieved so much, but she wasn't recognized for how good a talent she was in the ring, and that wasn't utilized, certainly on the mainstream, certainly in WWF at the time. But where she was utilized was her larger-than-life, over-the-top character, the way she would take bumps in the ring and throw herself around to the boys, in the ring, and the stories that she could tell, the people that she worked with, and I think that at the time there was nobody else like her in the business, and I think at the time,
you had like Miss Elizabeth, but she was, she was very royal.
She wasn't a talent. She wasn't. She
was just a manager. She'd never get involved.
And
Sherry was different. She didn't give a shit. She would climb in the cage. She'd slap the warrior. She just honestly, she was the boys.
But she was a pioneer. She was one of the boys, and she would treat herself like one of the boys. And if there was a spot in a match, she would say, right, just throw me around like you would one of the boys. She didn't want to be treated any differently. But the story she would tell, the journey she went on, and she would have a lot of funny stories, but also a lot of shit experiences to talk about as well.
Yeah.
So Repo Man, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Sherry Martel.
Fantastic lineup. Oh, mate, if we answer
Great question.
Thank you.